Hello, and welcome to DeKalb Talks Tourism. We're excited to have you with us today, and we're extremely excited to have Randy Davidson. How you doing, Randy?
I'm doing great, James. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. So you're the president of Georgia Entertainment.
Actually, I'm the CEO and the founder of
CEO
Georgia.
and founder. So sooner or later, I'm going to get these titles right. So the CEO and founder of Georgia Entertainment. So before we get to that part, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I grew up in South Georgia, in Albany, Leesburg, way down there. You know, just about the part of the state. If you're driving to Florida, you ask yourself from Atlanta and DeKalb, where we're at now, is like about the time you say, when's this state going to end so I can get into Florida?
Well, I was worse. I used to be in Valdosta a long time ago. And that's really the end of the state.
Well, kind of. So just before you get there, you take a right, and I live over there, you know. But that's where I grew up, and then I went off to college to the University of Louisville in Kentucky, and had a scholarship there, and lived there for a good bit, and then came back down to South Georgia in late 2007, 2008, and all during that time, and even up until now, as we'll talk about in a minute, I had online publishing businesses covering different things. So I had a business that covered the printing and publishing industry, which is still around today. It's called whattheythink.com, and sold that in 2013. But that was a daily publication that covered everything. If you were a printer of books or magazines around the world, you followed that as your Wall Street Journal, or your that's the sort of the media of record for that industry. And then in 2010, I started a company called Georgia CEO, which is a collection of hyper-local online publications that are around the state of Georgia. So there's Savannah CEO, Augusta CEO, Metro Atlanta CEO, etc. All the first, second, and third tier cities, for the most part, have a CEO daily publication with business news in it. And just kind of catching up to now, and finding that, you know, it's a great place to be up in Atlanta, and where all things are happening. Moved up here, and around 2016 we launched Georgia Entertainment. So a friend of mine who you've had on as a guest, who I call my father of the industry, Craig Miller, I literally remember sitting in his office and said, you know, what you're doing with Georgia CEO, you know, this hyper focus on business, there needs to be a hyper focus on the film and entertainment industry. True. And so we started Georgia Entertainment then, and today here we are. You know, that's my only business, and I've since exited Georgia CEO, which is still in existence today and does very well. But in 2020, I exited that completely, and this is what I do full time, is Georgia Entertainment.
Very cool. It's interesting. I did find myself was in Georgia Entertainment. I was reading, I go, wow, that's a nice quote. I don't remember any of it. I'm sure Siri wrote it and I just approved it. But
yes.
We're excited about Georgia Entertainment. Actually, we just found out about it through Decide DeKalb and through Shelby and Laura. So we're excited to now be working with you so closely, and we're great that you're on this show. But, you know, something in your past, I'd be interested to find out. So you got into the print side. What got you interested in that? I know print back then was the king, you know, obviously. But what got you interested in getting into that type of media in general?
Well, so that's I've got to clear out some cobwebs to think about that, but James. But when I was in college, I was working for Kinko's, and I was 19 years old, and Kinko's, if you remember, which they're owned by FedEx now.
Yeah, they were the dominant.
Yeah, they were the dominant. Yeah. But they decided that they were going to start a commercial sales team to go out and recruit, because they were, if you recall, they were traditionally located around universities.
Yes.
And they did the course packets for the teachers, and they did the, just the retail copying. But they wanted to go out and call on corporate America. And I took that job as a 19-year-old to go out and sell for them. And that was my immersion for the next 5 or 10 years of being one of their top salespeople, like in the country. It just kind of gravitated to me, and I loved it. And then, of course, I've always had this bug to to do my own thing. And that's where I started a publication to cover that industry. And so that's my history.
So it wasn't exactly a fluke, but it kind of,
No, not really. I was very fortunate that I married up to the technology that we live and eat and breathe.
No, actually starting with Kinko's
to
do sales.
Yes.
That just brought all of this on. I think that's such a cool story.
It is. If everybody looks back, they have something similar. Yeah. Like my kids used to say, "Hey, Dad, why are we here?" And I said, "Because I broke my leg in the 9th grade, and I can literally chase the path to meeting their mother. To me breaking my leg in the 9th grade, going to joining the debate team." Because I heard you didn't have to do anything in there. And if you did, you went and spent the night away from mom and dad and went to these debate tournaments. Well, that led me to the scholarship that got me to Louisville and met their mother and blah, blah, blah. So I feel like all of that in my business career, the internet being a key part of the print, and then, and to this day, that's the core of that stands up, at least the business area of what I do.
That's so exciting. When you say you a point in time, and I can think back that same way that got me into hotels, that got me here.
That's right.
So it's quite interesting how that is. Well, now let's go ahead and we got to the chronologically we got now to Georgia Entertainment.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is Georgia Entertainment?
So we cover the film and movie industry and music and arts, all of it. From a business perspective. So we're not the TMZ. We're not covering the actor and salaciousness of that area of the entertainment. What we do is we work with organizations like you guys and Shelby at DeKalb Entertainment Commission and others around the state to cover what's happening with this growing thing that we call the creative economy. And we feel like that this is a tidal wave that is taking over the world. Our youth, our young folks, and we can talk about this a little bit later too, but the unsuppressing of the creative mind of our young people and the fact that there are creative careers around that is something that's new and will be groundbreaking and we will be referencing for decades to come, I feel like, during this time period. So we're covering that for Georgia. We want Georgia from a policy perspective at the state level with the governor and the legislators, all the way down to local officials like yourself and government officials that are driving economic growth. We want them to embrace the creative industries just like they would the restaurant industry or the renewable energy or the life sciences. The creative industries are a major part of what Georgia can participate in and achieve the success that this state is known for.
Well, isn't Georgia basically become the new Hollywood?
Well,
To a point?
yeah. It is the new Hollywood. I don't really like referencing like Georgia, the Hollywood of the South or whatever, but if it gets someone in their brain to click on that we are the new entertainment capital of the world, then I'm fine with it. But really, Hollywood has been dismantled and is now sort of disassembled. In years past, think about this, James. You had limited circulation of media. You have the major networks, NBC, Fox, whatever. You had to pick content that was widely appealing, so think about that. Andy Griffith's show, Hogan's Heroes, things that could go widely around so it could be distributed and affordably done. And it was all sitting in Hollywood. They were writing the stories there. They were funding the stories through Hollywood. Then the internet came. Then streaming came.
Right.
Netflix, YouTube.
Then COVID.
All of it happened to defragment that power base. And meanwhile, while all that's happening, what does Georgia do with Sonny Perdue and Nathan Deal, and now today with Brian Kemp? I'm not saying that they all had all this figured out in their brain, but it's kind of like what we talked about earlier about my path to where I ended up and your path to where you ended up. Look at where we are today. We invested at the right time to be the big participant of this defragmentation. and disassemblement of the power base of creating content. Today, Georgia sits in prime position because of those investments that we've made in our stance to be able to really benefit and take charge and control our own destiny for what we do with the creative industries.
Well, I know here in DeKalb, we are just so excited for that investment that those governors and current governor has made. We're so excited with you promoting and keeping the tax credits alive. And of course, there's a whole bunch of people working on that, but we're excited about that because with us, with the new assembly that just opened not that long ago, Electric Owl, Shadow Box, which was the old Black Hall Studios, I mean, Third Rail, I mean, just with all these different studios just sitting in DeKalb County, we have such a great opportunity for the film entertainment world. So, we're investing heavily in trying to work with that, and that's why we're excited about the opportunity working with you.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, you mentioned Shelbia before, and I have to do a throw out to Shelbia because she was among the first people that I met when we started this business back in 2016, 2017. And I looked over on her, and I have to say something even before that. We started out as Georgia Film News. That was the original name of what we did. And in that year, in the legislative session of 2017, music was trying to get the legislature to acknowledge music and provide incentives. Okay, so we changed our name to Georgia Entertainment at that time. But the other reason that we changed it was because of Shelbia. She early on, the early vision for her for DeKalb was not DeKalb Film Commission, not DeKalb Film Society, but I feel like it was very visionary of her and those that decided upon that name to use a bigger name than just film, knowing that the creative economy was coming and that it was going to incorporate, gaming, fashion, art, and now that commission is set up, and when you go to the website that they've built, I mean, it indicates a more holistic view of the creative industries as opposed to film. That has turned out to be politically and economically brilliant because, even outside of DeKalb, where film is a major driver of economic activity for hotel stays, for catering, for the whole rippling effect of what's happening here, outside of DeKalb, all those legislators need to continue to support this. So the stance on the creative industries where they all are participating, maybe more so than they are in film, it's better for them to buy into that narrative, to continue to vote and support and have a stance. So anyway, a long way of saying yes, DeKalb is the leading county in the state that has benefited and grasped and embraced, and is an example that we use around the state of what other communities should be and could be doing.
Well, we're jumping on actually the concept that you and Shelbia, then you to us. So instead of us just saying film anymore, it is the film, entertainment, music. Because, DeKalb has a rich music heritage. Mm-hmm. I was in a podcast with the mayor of Dorville and also with, might have been Craig Miller, told us about, and we had the recording studio in Dorville that did Alabama rhythm section with the song Dorville. Mm-hmm. But then later on, I was on a podcast and they brought up that Freebird cut their entire Sweet Home Alabama. I think it was Sweet Home Alabama. Was that the one that they did? Yeah, they recorded Sweet Home Alabama with Freebird and all those different songs in that studio.
Wow, yeah.
So
it's
two huge groups.
That's right. It all, think about this. Think about gaming. Gaming's got music.
Yeah.
It's got video, obviously storylines.
Yeah.
And guess what? And you and I have talked about this at lunch recently. The new movies, the new Avengers of the future, the new big blockbusters, those will be the games that the kids are playing today. So these people, we won't even know what the name of the character is or whatever, but that's the intellectual property of the future that feature films will be made from, and music has a big role in that. And in fact, in current legislation, and we're not sure if this area or if this aspect will pass or not, but one of the incentives to get the Georgia credit to do the film is to use Georgia-based music, that was written here or composed here, scored here. There's various aspects. If you incorporate Georgia music within your film, it helps you achieve the credit that the state already offers. So that's
Nice.
that the recognition of it, and I'm hoping that part does get through if the bill passes. But the recognition that it's even in the conversation is a big victory.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And to take all those components, and I love how you brought up the creative class, because like you said, that is the future where we need to be going to keep the film from A to Z here in Georgia, here in DeKalb, and all the other aspects of creative culture besides just tying it into film. There's so much that can be done here, and I know Andrew Greenberg with the Gamer Association. I mean, all of that has to be the creative to get it accomplished, besides even on the big esports side. So
absolutely, one of the things that we're doing, and you guys are a partner with us, I think, which is great vision for you all too, is these unscripted roadshow events that we're doing around the state.
Yes.
So we will be promoting DeKalb and using you guys as an example of what communities should do. But this year we're going to Albany, we're going to Dalton, we're going to Columbus, we're going to Covington, we're going to all over the state. And you're right, they may not be doing a big film, they might not have a big entry into film, but I guarantee they're doing a lot. Their community's doing a lot of gaming. There's a lot of music. There's a lot of art. There's festivals. Culinary festivals. So the incorporation of the term entertainment and creative industries and creative economy, I think, is so important for CVBs, mayors, county commissioners, and even legislators to embrace that term and use that, because that's what we're buying into. I'll add to that, the Creative Economy Journal, which we just came out with, the publication that I gave you a copy of. One of our efforts and initiatives was to take a lot of the things that we're talking about today on this podcast and putting that into print, because print still has credibility.
Yes.
Narratives that we're talking about, gives it a little extra life, that is more permanent than, say, like an Instagram post about the differences between the creative economy and just being a film economy and things like that. So, all of these initiatives, the events that we talked about, it all goes together towards our mission and passion of educating Georgians about this opportunity.
Well, that's the nice thing about that magazine. It's really more like a coffee table magazine. It's very well done. Thick cardstock paper. I mean, it's a keeper.
Yeah, and that was intentional. Jeslyn Moyer, who's our president now, which I'd love to share about her and that evolution as well, of how our organization is structured and grown. But she had a lot of experience in print too, and we mentioned earlier that I used to obviously be involved in the print process. Right. But the vision for that was, hey, let's do a couple times a year. Let's only do full page displays. Let's go 70% with the content, 30% with the displays. So let's do something really different. Let's have high quality paper and let's let it sit there, because this is a educational piece that we want to with evergreen content that will last for years. So that's what we did. We hired a local Georgia artist to do the cover, so it's a memorable cover. We hope every cover that we do is very memorable and stands out. And we want these to sit on the desk of our readers, especially the legislators, which we gold-plated their names on each of their copies. So at the bottom of the cover of each one of those, their name, the honorable, whomever is on the cover. And when we've been at the Capitol in recent days, they're sitting out on their desk in their offices at the Capitol. So
you love that.
Mission accomplished on that
Yes.
front. So we're hoping to continue to do that. It's twice a year that we're doing it, and then just after the legislative session and just before it. And it goes to all the county commissioners, the CVBs, mayors, people that are driving projects to Georgia from outside of Georgia. So it's got a very intentional reach and a very intentional overall mission.
Now, don't you have like a film day at the Capitol soon?
So there is a film day, and that's kind of an annual thing. It kind of floats between whether it's at the Capitol itself or at, but or I think this year it's going to be at City Hall, and and just speaking about it generally, it's a time that industry people, Georgia Production Partnership, and other folks come together to just bring people around the Capitol or in the Capitol. Sometimes in years past it's been at the Capitol, but it's a celebration to just sort of bring the exposure of film's impact to the state of Georgia. So legislators see it. Obviously, it's so the press and the media will follow it and give it some due recognition. So we're excited about that being an annual activity that helps helps stakeholders and those working in the industry know about it.
So since we're kind of on events now, you want to talk about some events that you do annually or some events that are coming up?
Oh, yeah, I would love to. So, last year we started a series of events called the Georgia Unscripted events, and we're doing those again this year. These are the ones that, as I mentioned, that you guys are partnering with us as well. Those are very core to what our mission is as we go outside of Atlanta, because it's very important that this not be Atlanta's industry. It's very important politically and overall for this to be Georgia's industry.
Right.
So we have the unscripted events where we go and we have a balance of content for these events. So we have gamers there, we have music there, we have fashion, arts, film. So it's sort of an all-encompassing event to show community leaders there what's happening with their local creative economy. We also have a series of events that are called our Signature 100 events.
Right.
And these are invite-only events where we invite directors, producers, and the real movers and shakers in the entertainment industry from outside of Georgia and inside of Georgia for them to come in and have a couple of times annually of intentional networking. So we do 2 of those a year. And then we also have special events. We're doing one called Entertainment Tourism, and that will be our first one will be this year. The Entertainment Tourism event is to help us sort of join and show what the economic impact is and how local CVBs, local communities, local tourism experts can really embrace and recruit these types of productions and the value. And after they leave, how do you leverage up that they were there? Right. So we feel like that's a very important aspect that deserved its own event. So we've written about that, for example, in the Creative Economy Journal, which we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. We cover that. We're partnering with you with that. So we feel like it's a big enough topic to where it needs its own event. Another example of a specialty event, a couple of other events. We just did our second annual Women in Entertainment event on International Women's Day, which every year is March the 8th. So we did that on Tybee this year. We had a lot of people come in from around the state to celebrate women in film, women in entertainment. Then we in February, one more example of a siloed event is the Real and Permanent Good, which focused on in diversity and inclusion and equity, and what we can do to make sure that we're not having to retroactively go back and be inclusive like we have had to do in our country's historical past. Right. But this being a newish industry in Georgia, we feel like we can lead in that area, and bring everybody along with the inclusion of the benefit. And lastly, I'll just state that our biggest eye-opening areas has been the going outside of Georgia to recruit business.
Yes.
We just went to Sundance this last year, or in January, and had a major event where we were able to talk about Georgia, about the infrastructure that's here, the culture, and ready to serve attitude. And us being at Sundance with an event is that first door that shows that we're here to serve. We were the only state there to recruit. We had other counties as supporters and partners with us. They were there at the event, because generally what we found, and what was eye-opening to me, because most of our events have been in Georgia, people think of Georgia as a place that's got another tax incentive. We got to go out and tell them if it's something different, and
Right.
it is. It's not just that, because everybody has a little bit of an incentive. Georgia has the best, we feel like, but Texas has one. Kentucky throws up an incentive here and there, or whatever. You got to go out there and tell them why they need to make Georgia their long-term partner for their productions. And a place like Sundance, Cannes, South by South, we're looking at all ways to go outside of Georgia, have an event, because Georgia people are already there, the savvy ones. Are already seeing that opportunity.
Right.
But we do it and incorporate it into an event, and that's one of our big initiatives, James, for going forward, is figuring out ways that we can take Georgia on the road to these areas where there is this high concentration of people with money that want to spend it. We want them to spend it in Georgia.
Well, I know you talked about that, and when we had lunch, and at lunch, and I'll say it right here, we're ready to go. We're going to be a group with you in next January.
We appreciate you guys. Yeah, absolutely. You guys. I mean, and you guys as the leading community for film, and you have great crew hotel
Right.
services. You have an experienced supplier base. So you got people that have companies that have years of experience of servicing this industry, with catering and with supplier companies, ancillary, all these services that productions need. They're
Food
not
trucks for when they need that.
Absolutely, they're not recruiting in like they did early on.
Right.
DeKalb is the one it has the most experience of pretty much any county in Georgia to servicing these. So we're excited that you guys are seeing that and supporting that, and going to help recruit and drive business here, because filmmakers, it's an interesting industry. We talked a little bit about my history before with Georgia CEO and the print, and so those I would say those are general businesses. I have been so amazed that the film and entertainment and creative industries, they feel like they're very special. I don't know if it's an ego thing or whatever, but I the joke that I tell others is if there was a gas station that catered to entertainment professionals, entertainment workers would drive far to go to that gas station.
We need to get with Stephanie Stuckey. We got to plan that one out.
Well, there's an opportunity there, because literally haircutting, communities, they're looking for people that understand their world, and they are. They have an interesting mindset, but they are very loyal, because they don't have time for their projects to be side-railed on something that is not a proven entity. And I would say that that's probably the truth for most any business. But it is where it's a badge of honor on their sleeve. It is something that they lead out with. They need to know that this community is ready, film ready. They need to know that you have their lighting situation handled, the food truck situation on lock, because the catering, for example, it's not an office party where it's one catering in and out. No, your team is 20 days on this project. Your hotel, that the clerk needs to smile 20 days in a row
Right.
to the same people, and have and think about different breakfasts, not the same breakfast. There's different nuances that they look for. So in that way, I do understand that, but it is something that we talk a lot with vendors and suppliers and things like that about how to niche up your business to be ready to serve these, because the reward of loyalty is massive.
Well, you're going to be speaking, I think it's May 23rd is
Yeah.
going to be our film entertainment panel.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you being there, and
I'm
you're
looking
going to be
forward
doing
to it.
exactly what you just now said.
I love it. That's one of the things that I enjoy doing. I was just in South Georgia yesterday at different, in Albany and Thomasville and Moultrie, Georgia, talking to them about these same concepts. And that's what we love doing is we love regular businesses seeing the value of just tweaking just a little bit in order to be able to be ready to receive this. Because when you do a great project and you don't fail and they leave, they're coming back. It's a no bid. How about that for industry?
That's perfect.
How about the word no bid? So that's where this industry is. I mean, as long as you're fair, but what's more important than the price is that their project's not going to be derailed.
It's so funny because for some reason I'm a gas station freak. And now you got me into, we need to have like the Buc-ee's of the film industry here in DeKalb as our own special convenience gas station, all in one for the film industry.
Well, I mean, I would love to brainstorm ideas about what that would do and what that would look like.
That'd be so cool.
That it had like you had a little Best Buy corner, where you can get your cords and things for your shoot that you may need. Just a whole. You can imagine the whole retail center is sort of catered up to the creatives, little trinkets that they would games that they could play. Maybe a little sit down area in case you need to play, one of the games or have a little esports event at the convenience store. We'll have to do a try podcast with Stephanie or something.
We got to figure that one out. I mean, this is right up her alley, and we just got to find the right place.
Yes.
Plus, if you're young or have any age and you want to get into the film, entertainment, creative economy side, or you want to write games, what do you do? How do you get in?
So, well, there's a lot of paths, So briefly on that front, I think the creative path towards education and learning is non-traditional for sure. I mean, you have SCAD, you have technical schools, you have the Georgia Film Academy, but you also have a lot of nonprofits that are doing intern programs and apprentice programs like Reimagine and Fresh Films and things like that. A lot of opportunities for young folks to get to get involved. One of the things that we're doing that we will be announcing formally soon is that we've partnered with the University of Georgia. We're doing a project that is studying the career awareness and career choice preferences of our youth.
Wow.
Because we feel like that it is not representative in the current curriculum of secondary and higher education, the fact that our young people want these creative paths. And the data from those surveys, James, is used to fund our curriculum. So the questions we feel like are not being asked in a way that that indicates what the preferences of our youth are. So the project with UGA is to create a baseline of questions that will change out the current questions that our juniors and sophomores and seniors are asked, to determine and at least allow them the opportunity to be able to tell our policymakers, departments of education, and those folks that, hey, this is a relevant population here. The traditional questions do not deal with the opportunities and the career choices that our kids have today. So we're really excited. We don't know what the results are going to be. I mean, I do know what they're going to be because I do know what our youth are doing. I mean, if you go to the mall, if you go around, the younger folks want the career paths. And, I'm 52, but this could have never entered my mind, a career in entertainment, in podcasting, in music. That would have been a hobby. My father would have, he would have totally suppressed that and said, you need to go be a lawyer or trade,
do something
financial,
to make money.
Exactly. Do something to make money, But today it's a tidal wave that's coming over.
Right.
So we're really excited about that and showing that to policymakers, legislators, that where they can feel good that, hey, the data supports it. We don't have to talk about the ripple effects and wonder about the intangibles of what a film production does economically. That's debatable. What we feel like is not debatable, our kids to stay in Georgia, we need to make sure these career paths are here. So I'm excited about
Well,
that.
it's a great feeder too, the Georgia State's film and all the different film schools around, and like you said, it's a feeder to all the technical schools.
That's right.
You know, because the day of only getting a 4-year degree is gone. I mean, you're getting all these different certificates and 2-year degrees and 4-year degrees, or even going into masters. But that's not the old way of you did this, and it's definitely different. And we're still trying to figure out from the tourism perspective, the Gen Z, Gen Ys, we can't figure them out. What are they going to do? What is their interest? And even I've got 2 kids in that, and they can't even answer the question to me.
It's a new time. I mean, we just completed partnering with Creative Placemaking Summit that was very interesting, that just took place last week. And this is new. You're not the only one, James, that everybody is sort of toying with. Yeah. What are we going to do? How are we going to meet these needs? But it is a new way of development. It's a new way of lifestyle, where commerce and lifestyle come together to create the atmosphere that folks will want to live in. And you've got commerce here, you've got community here, and you have lifestyle. In my opinion, overall of it is the creative economy, driving the bridge to making sure that all of that is working together. Even with the sort of crazy discussion we just had about a gas station with a creative economy bend or whatever, these choices will be made, by our young folks. That's what they're looking to do. They're looking to engage and do commerce with someone that has a story. So,
and you know what I love about that? Because, I'm going to put my typical spin to it. To me, tourism is the overarching glue for the creative economy, for the economic development, for the film, entertainment. Because I look at tourism like Big T. It's not what most people think of as tourism. And we're not just heads and beds. We're funded by that, but we're not just that. We're not just restaurants. We're not just meetings. I mean, we're the glue of an economy and of a community that brings money to the community, but also brings people to visit, brings people to live, bring companies to come. It's like out in Arizona, they came and played golf, loved it, so they moved the company there. This is kind of the same concept. So anything that we can do with this, I love this concept of Creative Placemaking Summit.
Oh yeah, I mean it's great. I mean we're actually looking at doing a couple of those, stand up some creative placemaking conversations and discussions, having people talk about that, because you're right. Tourism is around and over, and if tourism can be the leading voice pushing down this creative concept, it impacts everything: the hotels, the restaurants, the wellness, the pride. I mean, it's quite amazing. There's so much around tourism. Tourism is not just for people think tourism is folks. We're trying to recruit folks from the outside. Tourism is equally a rallying for the insiders.
Right.
And I don't think people recognize that. I do and you do, but it's a dual audience, right?
Definitely so. I mean, tourism is all about quality of life too.
That's right.
I mean, I think the problem with tourism is the name.
Yes.
And it's never been able to be explained the way that the old style of looking at it. So I don't know how I think we're going to get the new style to be explained.
Yeah.
So we got a couple minutes. Anything you want to close with?
James, no. I'm just really excited. What we're in today, this podcast booth, you doing what you're doing, this is the result of the creative economy. The demand and your feeling, obviously, that your vision to do something like this is part of what the creative economy is. Everyone needs a studio. Every business needs a studio. That's my opinion. That's where we're going to be in the next. I said this was going to be decades on the come. This is just like a bathroom. Where's the studio going? Yeah. It's got to be there, because you've got to tell stories with you've got to highlight your employees. Because we didn't even talk about recruitment and all those issues, the challenges that real business owners have of keeping and retaining employees. But you've got to have a studio like you got to have a bathroom, because you've got to tell the story, because people are going to be buying plumbing services, cars from folks that they trust through the digital medium of outlets, social, YouTube, everything. and it starts right here. So kudos to you guys for seeing that. Kudos to you guys for embracing the entertainment industry, for partnering with us. We really appreciate the vision that you guys have to do that and help us bring more activity, more growth, and more opportunity for folks in Georgia.
Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate working with you. And Randy, thanks for coming. Congratulations on your new president position. We'll get you on the show, and then you get all the limelight. And thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to check out our next show.
And thank you, Monica.